Hello everyone and welcome to another review. In this review, we're going to be checking out an expansion on an older blaster, the extended version, upgraded maybe? Well, that's what we're going to be finding out. We're going to be taking a look at the Nerf Rival Phantom Core Hades. It's an Artemis, but with more ammo capacity. Is it worth more money? Is it better than the Artemis? Should you get this over an Artemis, or is the Artemis going to be better overall? That is the question, and we're going to be, or questions, and we're going to be finding out the answers. So yeah, let's start with the box. This is the Hades. It's a big boy box right here. On the front, you have the blaster, you have the little Rival stuff right here that says, you know, velocity 100 FPS, accuracy because it's Rival, and it's a Springer blaster. You have a little ball up here that you can touch to, if you haven't figured out what Rival feels like so far. On the back, you have the cool kids playing with their Rival stuff, and just a little bit of information about the Hades. Comes with 60 rounds, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about the box when we have a blaster to get to, right? So let's get it out. And inside the box, you get your instruction pamphlet. You get 60 Rival rounds. You get 2 team flags, one for blue, one for red, because that's how the Phantom Core line works. And you get the Hades itself. The Hades is just a big Artemis in both the way it looks and the way it functions. It works exactly the same as the Artemis, so if you've played with an Artemis, you already know everything about the Hades. You pump the vertical grip to rotate the barrels, which then get balls pushed into them anytime they're empty by the big springs in the inner magazine. So you push the vertical grip forward and you pull the trigger, and that fires off a round from the bottom barrel. To load, you open up this little bit right here, which pushes back the little pushing platforms and the springs, and you load the balls up in here. Just like with the Artemis, these little slots will not allow your balls to exit the blaster after they've been put in. So this means if you're loading on the fly and you're also running a lot, your balls won't go flying out of the blaster. However, if you need to unload your blaster, it's a bit harder than just pulling the balls from the slot, as you basically have to fire off all your rounds in order to get your ammo out of the Hades. Other than that, ergonomics are a bit different with the Hades because it has, well, a longer backside to it. The grip right here is very comfortable, though the trigger is very thin and feels a bit awkward as my finger wants to wrap around it at the top bend on my index finger. And on top of that, the curve of the stock doesn't really fit into my shoulder because it's a bit too small. So my shoulder wants to push in on this bottom part, but because of the way it slopes, it just kind of digs in and isn't really comfortable overall. And on top of that, the Hades does have a bit of weight to it, so it's kind of a heavy, awkward blaster that's really going to depend on how tall and how strong you are when it comes to wielding it. Along with that, the vertical grip is kind of like the Artemis in that it feels good until your finger starts digging into one of the angles at the front, or you just don't have the hand size to wrap around the rectangular foregrip comfortably. It's kind of odd, it's just a bit off, and I expect a lot of people to be doing the same thing with the Artemis, where they just take this part off and replace it with a shotgun grip. And just like with the Artemis, you do have a safety switch, which is ambidextrous. You push it down, you cannot pull the trigger, you push it up, that allows you to fire. And on the left side, there is a jam release button right here. So if something happens, this allows you to get your balls out more easily. And on the back, you have a sling point right here. And on the front, I'm assuming you have a sling point, though this one is very flexible, a bit wobbly, and is right underneath the barrels. So I don't know, maybe it's just for aesthetics. If you're going to be using it for a sling point, you might be bashing up against your cylinder. And if it's not a sling point, well, at least it kind of looks cool. And on the top of the blaster, you have your Rival tack rail, which gets separated in half by the piece you slide back. So if you are going to be putting stuff on the top, you want to make sure you have enough room for your hand to grab onto this piece right here, and you also don't want your attachment to be split onto these two parts because you will be pushing that back in order to load your blaster. And another similarity between the Artemis and the Hades is that this blaster can also do the, I don't think they really meant it to, but it can, shotgun effect that I showed off in my Artemis review. Basically, when you're loading, you can shove a round into the barrel first, load up your ammo as usual, and the springs will push a second ball into the barrel, therefore allowing you to shoot 2 rounds, which is pretty cool and can be useful. And you can also go up to more than 2 rounds, but you might get a jam in the process, so user beware. Now, one of the things about the Artemis that I didn't really like was its accuracy. The Artemis, at least in my experience, did not have that, hey, I can hit that guy over there accuracy that the rival line kind of boasts. So to see if the Hades kind of has that fate, I set up a box on my hill and tried to hit it with some rounds. Alright, now trying Slamfire. As you can see, the Hades, just like my experience with the Artemis, is not a very accurate blaster. A lot of the shots are curving to the right, and this was all with brand new rival rounds that came straight from the box. So it's weird to me that they keep putting blasters into the rival line that aren't necessarily accurate, which is kind of the point of the rival line. And it makes me wonder what kind of the real purpose of this blaster is. But I'm guessing with the extended magazines of the Hades, this is more for kind of a covering fire blaster or a suppressing blaster. You might get a bit more accurate when it comes to shots that are closer up. But overall, it's just kind of a weird blaster for the rival line because it's more about you know, overcompensating with shots than really getting onto your target with one shot after another. So the Artemis and Hades are kind of these like weird outlier blasters for the rival line. But I mean, I'm not complaining. You do have a lot of ammo capacity to really make up for missing those shots. Which brings us to the conclusion of this video, and we're going to start off by going over the pros and cons for the Hades before we get into the price and into my final thoughts. The pros for this blaster are, well, you got a lot of ammo to work with, and if you like the Artemis, you're definitely gonna like having more ammo capacity. You have all the goodness of the Artemis. It's easy to use top loading up here. Balls don't go flying out if you rattle this thing around. It's very simple to use overall. The pump of it is nice. The Slamfire works. You can kind of shotgun it as well. Overall, it's a nice functioning blaster, just like the Artemis, and I like the Artemis. A semi-pro is the comfort of the grip. Overall, the blaster is not that comfortable, which we'll get to in just a second, but the grip is nice. I like the grip. It has a nice size. So yeah, that's really it for the feeling of the blaster is the grip. And now on to the cons of the Hades, starting with comfort, because that's a nice segue point. The blaster is just in this kind of awkward area. It's a bit too big for some people. The ergonomics are not great up at the front. The trigger is a bit thin, so that really depends on, you know, how you like your triggers. And also there's like a molding line going down the center of the trigger, which is a bit odd. The stock for the blaster just doesn't feel that great. And yeah, it's just kind of a weird, awkward thing. Like, I don't really know. It's just slightly off, and I don't like that. Another con is obviously the accuracy for this thing. Like I said, with the rival line, it's kind of about accuracy, but then the Artemis and the Hades are the outliers for that, where, you know, hitting your target might be difficult. Not only do you have very floaty kind of rounds that get easier to dodge the further someone gets out from you, but you're not really going to be able to hit your opponent because of accuracy. So not only do they have a very slow moving round, but you have an inaccurate round at the same time, which makes dodging this thing pretty easy after about like 40, 50 feet. And the last con is the price. This can go either way for people. The price for this thing is basically $70. So you're paying for an Artemis with more rounds, plus the more rounds that you get in the box, and I guess the 2 flags that come with it throw into the price as well. $70 for this blaster is quite a bit, and it's really going to be worthwhile to the person depending on how they want to play. If you like the Artemis, but you find yourself reloading too much, this might be the blaster for you. If you like the Artemis, but you want to keep that small size, stick with the Artemis and maybe get a stock adapter from Out of Darts. If you love the idea of ammo capacity, but you also want the comfort, you're going to want to, replace this grip up at the front unless your hands are like the perfect size, or you can maybe round off these little jaggy bits at the front. Really, the Hades is for the person that wants to lay down more cover fire than what they could do with the Artemis, and I don't know, maybe likes a bigger size blaster, one that feels more like a rifle. But again, the weight of this thing it's just off. It doesn't feel too great in terms of weight. So the person who's going to buy this, it really depends on who they are, and I don't see like a huge market for it. But overall, like the Hades, it's a cool idea. It's the Artemis 6000. If you have seen that mod video, if you haven't, I'll link in the description. It's the Artemis 6000, but made by Hasbro, which is pretty cool, and I was excited for this blaster, and I still like it for what it is, but really the Artemis, I say, is the better buy overall, especially since you can get the really nice Out of Darts stock adapter for it, which makes it very, very comfortable, and it still kind of keeps that compact feel because you can put a Retaliator stock on it, and even a worker stock feels way better than this thing does. Yes, you lose some ammo capacity, but at the same time, loading this thing up all the way takes a lot of time, even if you're mushing balls into the openings like that. Though you can do that with the bigger openings, which is kind of cool. So I guess that's a pro as well. So the Hades falls into this kind of weird area. Some people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it. Some people are really going to hate it. But that is the new Rival Hades MXVIII-6000 from Nerf. If you would like to purchase a Rival Hades, I'll have a link in the description to where you can get one for yourself or maybe for someone else. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a great day. There's no ammo in this wherever you are.